Shortly after they'd landed at Hendon, they were met by a junior officer who seemed to be expecting them. Well, he'd been expecting Elliot. He seemed surprised when Elliot said she'd be coming with him. The officer had carried their things across the field and led them to a small office building. Once there, Elliot asked her to wait outside for a moment while he went in to secure an auto. 10 minutes later, they were driving down the road toward London. The traffic wasn't bad until they got into town. She was fascinated by everything out the window. London was so different from Paris, so many things she wanted to see, but Elliot seemed distracted and drove like a man in a hurry. He'd finally admitted why. At the airfield, he'd spoken on the phone with his commanding officer, who, for some reason, had expected Elliot to arrive several hours ago. Now he had just enough time to get her checked in at the hotel and drive to wherever he and his CO were supposed to meet. He'd apologized profusely. This wasn't the way he'd intended their first evening in London to unfold. After tipping the steward at the Savoy with instructions to take very good care of her, he'd left her standing there in this magnificent lobby, promising to return and take her to dinner 2 hours from now. The moment Elliot left her standing there in this majestic, high-class hotel, Renee felt terribly self-conscious. Her family was not wealthy, not anymore. They had been once, years ago when she was a little girl. Something had happened, something she didn't understand, and their fortunes had been dramatically and instantly reduced. The changes that followed didn't matter much to her, but they ruined her father. His health had immediately begun to deteriorate. A few years later, he was dead. "Madam?" Renee looked up. "Please follow me." The hotel steward led her toward the elevator, carrying her one small bag. "Are these all your things, madam?" "Yes." She did own a few dresses that might make the grade in a place such as this, garments that used to belong to her mother. The two of them had made several alterations, attempting to modernize them and make them fit on Renee's smaller frame, but those dresses now hung in her wardrobe back in France. After ascending the elevator to the 6th floor, they walked about halfway down a long hallway. When the steward had unlocked the door to her room, she stepped into this amazing suite. Once again, she felt so entirely out of place. He carried her lone bag into the separate bedroom, set the bag on the bed, and opened the doors to a huge wardrobe. "Would you like me to hang up your things, madam?" "No, thank you." She'd be horrified to have him even open her bag. She followed him back out into the main room and watched him pull back the curtains, revealing this majestic view of the city. He walked back toward the front door and stood as if at attention. A horrifying realization sunk in. He was expecting a tip. She had no money, not even a cent. An awkward moment passed between them. She didn't know what to say. Finally, "Thank you so much for your help," said more like a question. He seemed to get the message and promptly left, looking only slightly annoyed. She walked back into the bedroom and opened her bag. It took all of 3 minutes to put away every stitch of clothing she had left in the world. Besides the handful of things in one drawer, hanging in the cavernous wardrobe were 2 blouses and a skirt. Combined with what she wore, she could patch together 3 outfits in total. None of them up to par with the clothes likely worn by the staff of this hotel. Elliot sat at his desk in a nondescript building on the 4th floor of 64 Baker Street, nervously rearranging some paperwork and file folders. He'd rushed over here after hurriedly dropping Renee off at the Savoy, thinking his commanding officer, or CO, had been waiting to see him for hours. He'd arrived to find his CO's door closed.